Right, hello everyone. Well, I just wanted to go over a few things that people have mentioned on some of the videos. And one of the things, certainly in the VR videos I'm doing, is the performance tab or screen that gets overlaid on the left hand side at the moment. Now, I did this because I was getting a lot of temperature problems and I was using X-Plane and flying around and then making adjustments in the Intel tuning utility on my CPU and my graphics card. And I'd watched a video on the new MSI. They've done an update. So at the moment we don't have it running, but if we put MSI on, they've updated it. And there's two things that have become really quite useful. If you go to YouTube, type in MSI and the new OC clock utility, on certain of the overlays you see this little graph, and if you click on that graph it will bring up the OC scanner. And the OC scanner will actually work out the best performance it can for your graphics card. Now, I've done this manually for years and everything, and I have to say this works really well. It's been a godsend in one respect. When you press it, you can say start the test, the scan, and it will go through, check your card, whatever, and then you can test it again, see if it works accordingly. And then you can save it to a profile. If we unclick this and then hit save, and let's say I saved it to number 1, that would then come up and use this new graph for the curve, as they call it, for the overclocking. The other thing that came up was that I noticed on quite a few gaming videos this new display on the left, and what I wanted to see was the usage on the CPU and everything without having to go backwards and forwards, running test programs and so on, because in some respects X-Plane is a great test program on its own. If you can get it to work in that and run smoothly, then it will pretty much run anything. What I did find when I was doing tuning using benchmark utilities, you'd go into X-Plane and you'd get other problems. So I was in this basically trying to cool it down but keep the frame rate higher. So one of the things when you download MSI, you get the option of downloading a thing called the Riva tuner, which is this little blue box at the bottom. And in previous, I'm going to say years, I'd never ever bothered doing it because it was sort of sending information backwards and forwards. But now what Riva tuner can do is actually overlay the performance graph you see on the left on any videos that you're doing. So if you, once you've done your overclocking and everything else, mine's set to number 4, so the graph comes up. If you go into tuning, monitoring at the top, if you right click any of these, you get the option to put it OSD, on screen display, in a text and a graph. You can play around with the size and everything here and just choose what you want to be shown. You can even play around with the order and everything. And then once you've done that, it will only show when you run this overlay or the Riva tuner. So you do need both, and it is possible to call up the data so that while you're flying around you can look at the temperatures, usage and so on. And of late I've found that really useful. When we had the hot weather and I had the PC shutting down, I needed to cool things down and so on. So for me, they're the settings that I will normally run, and I will in VR run this on the side, and it's just quite handy, something else to look at. We're in the Huey at the moment, and so we also have the little graph that appears under there, which we can put on that side. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that some people had commented on some of the screenshots that I'd done on one or two of the websites I post on, and what I wanted to go back and just mention was that when you're making a video or doing something, if you know where you're going to land and you want the best shot possible for that position, think about the time of year and where the sun's going to be. So here, obviously, I'm at Shoreham. Let's just say this is where I want eventually to land the helicopter, and I want the best shot possible for it. You can play around with the lighting to get the helicopter either lighter, darker, get the shadows to appear for the final shot. So if we wanted a shot that we were coming in, it was going to be low down sun, I'd set it there and then go off and make the video and try and keep the camera angle to this side so that it highlights the fuselage when you're flying. And obviously if it was on the other side, when you came in to land, you would have a very dark side and not a very nice looking helicopter. Now, the fact that we've got some new paint schemes for the Huey, at least it's going to remain bright no matter what we do. But obviously a few days ago or last week, when we pretty much were all flying the camouflage version, if we go up and we just change it back to default, apply changes, take a little while to kick in, obviously. To start seeing the real detail on this one, you can see that having the sun in the wrong position, or picking the wrong month even, you don't want the sun directly overhead where it doesn't look very good. For me, I'm going to try and pick somewhere where that sort of angle showing the bodywork off really well. And this also works on the low down sort of flying going through the trees. If you know you're going to be shooting your video mainly from outside, and this sort of angle, whether it's further back or anything else, position the sun accordingly so the helicopter is lit up. What you don't want to do is have it over the other side, either dark or directly overhead. Here we go, you can just watch the shadow on the towel, lose all the detail. So pick a sunlight position for the angle you're going to be I'm going to say doing your outside view, and that for me would be a majority of the cases. And so if I went off now and did one of my low flights through the trees or whatever, I would be sort of zooming round mainly at those angles, maybe a bit closer in, as it was going through the trees. And occasionally you can't help it and you're going to end up on the other side, but of course the detail then is lost and it looks dark, and all that work that the graphic people put in is lost. All your rivet details gone, everything like that. So just maybe pre-think about Supposing you're doing a landing up on one of those mounting pads or something like that, go to the mounting pad, put the helicopter on the pad, play around maybe even with the angles where you want it to, the final shot to land, adjust the lighting accordingly. So a very sultry looking landing site, that one. And then if you wanted the real detail, bring the sun round on the side there, highlighting the people inside. Go and do your flight. When you come back to the landing site, you know the sun and everything's in the right position, you've got the highlights, and everything would work accordingly. So only a few tips. Just wanted to mention the bit about the Riva tuner and the chart I've been using on the left, and also a little bit about lighting, especially on the dark green one. The video I did of low flying, on one side, as it's turning one way, looks great. Flip over the other side and we've virtually got a black silhouette. So think about the time of year, where the sun is, think where your final shot's going to be, or where you're mainly using your camera angle from, and set the sun up accordingly, and hopefully it will look sharper, a bit more detailed, and a better video all round. So that's it, only a short one this week, and hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, press the subscribe button. If you've got any questions about the utility or anything else, put it in the comments section, and I'll probably be doing a VR flight as well, just as a low down fly around, which obviously I think I'll do one a week of those sort of things anyway. So have a look on the VR Aviator site and keep an eye out for that. So thanks for watching, really appreciate it. Press the subscribe button, and I'll be seeing you or talking to you next week.